This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Miles Memories Weekly, episode 230. Miles Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wearing experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Oh. Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, I have played ungodly amounts of Spearhead, and I finished a Warhammer 40,000 novel. But first, have you ever thought to yourself you need a website, but you don't know where to start? Well, today's sponsor, Squarespace, can help with that. Squarespace allows anyone to design the website of their dreams with the most powerful and easiest design tools in the industry like Design Blueprint. Using AI technology empowers anyone to build a more personalized website tailored to their needs, crafting a bespoke digital identity. Choose from a professionally curated selection of styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up. Squarespace makes sure it's easy to launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated optimized SEO tools, so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. With Squarespace, it's never been easier to set up a unique online storefront. Whether your services are physical, digital, or service-based, selling your wares has never been easier. Squarespace offers an unmatched ability to showcase your unique wares with images, videos, reviews, and add-ons all capped off with their seamless checkout tools, letting your customers use whatever system they prefer, whether Klarna, ACH Direct Deposit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, or ClearPay. Squarespace offers a free trial for you to dip your feet into and test the waters, and ready to dive in head first, you can go to squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle or follow the link in the description to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. My favorite wargame is Age of Sigmar Spearhead. It's just a really tight little, not quite a skirmish game, not quite an army game. It's definitely leaning more army because you have a lot of models and even some bigger models, but it feels a little bit more than like a kill team where you just got a gaggle of similar guys. Instead, you do have the better part of an army. It feels like two exploratory or scouting forces just meeting on a very tight battlefield and just having a good time just wailing on each other. I have played almost every single Spearhead in the game, which is a lot of Spearheads. Compared to 40k's Combat Patrol, Spearhead is really nice in that every Spearhead that's ever been made has not replaced the old Spearhead, so they're all still available and they're all still usable in the game of Spearhead. Where Combat Patrol, when a new Combat Patrol comes out, which is usually a little bit worse than the old Combat Patrol, it replaces the old one, so you kind of stop playing with the old one and you start playing with the new one. Also, what's kind of bad about Combat Patrol is Games Workshop floated it out there as a game mode with the launch of 10th edition, but then kind of gave up on it. I'm pretty sure if you look up the rules for Eldar or Genestealer cults, it's still the old broken rules before they completely redid how they do those factions. And so basically, if you play Genestealer cult or Eldar, you kind of automatically win. There's definitely some pretty bad game balance problems, but there might also be some game balance problems in Spearhead, but the way Spearhead works as a game is so fundamentally different and good that I feel like it does solve a lot of the problems. I've played almost every single Spearhead. The only one, there's 30 or some, there might be even more than that. I think the only ones I haven't played, I've played against the, what are the Under the Sea guys called? The Ideneth Deepkin. I've played against them once, but I've never played as them. And I've never played original Caradron Overlords or Cities of Sigmar or Lumineth. That sounds like a lot, but I've seen them before. They're fine. They definitely seem a little bit on the weaker side, but that's kind of comparing them to the current problem in Spearhead, and that is new skeletons or new vampires, which are the skeletons, which is a Spearhead that just came out fairly recently, and the Blades of Khorne Spearhead. Holy cow, are they way, way, way too good. Sean has both of them, of course, and it has become a bit of a problem in our play group where you just don't play against these Spearheads because they have the best stat blocks in the game, they have the best saves in the game, they have the best resurrection mechanics in the game, and the damage output is obscene for the units in those Spearheads. I have beat Blades of Khorne one singular time. I was playing the Night Haunt, and I just ignored his entire army and used my ghost to float around the board and score primaries and secondaries, and I just managed to eke out the win. I've also beaten the Blades of Khorne one, I think I might have beat the Blades of Khorne one other time I was playing vampires. Or no, I think I beat new vampires with old vampires. The old vampires is also a decently strong spearhead. And so if you go strong against strong, you're gonna have a really good game. And if you go with weak against weak, you're gonna have a really good game. But if you try to play weak into strong, it tends to be an absolute slaughter. One spearhead I dusted off recently was my Hedonites of Slaanesh. I really like the Hedonites of Slaanesh. They're really, really fun. And they recently got some buffs. Games Workshop has actually been working on balancing the game. And so they've had periodic like game patches where they've tried to bring up some underperforming teams. They've sort of squashed some of the most overpowered teams. They nerfed one of my teams, which is the Ogre-Maw tribes, the original Ogre-Maw tribes. And so now I think one of this Glutton squad doesn't come on until turn 3 with the Mournfang pack and the cannon. And so it's definitely not impossible, but a challenge to win with the ogres now, where before they were really, really good. I mean, the problem was the stat block of an ogre is just really good. 4 wounds, I think objective control 2. They hit on 4s, but they wound on 2s, damage 2, damage 2. You gotta have some damage 2 in your spearhead, or else you're just gonna be punching away at like big squads of skeletons or rats forever, not doing much of anything. Another thing that kind of seems bad in spearhead is when your spearhead has reinforce on everything. So reinforce in spearhead is where the first time your unit is wiped off the board, they get to march right back onto the board. That is a really good way to like boost the power level of a spearhead, but it's just not as good as if your unit was always good to begin with. The Hedonites of Slaanesh have resurrect or reinforce on basically the entire army, and Sean had no problem wiping the entire army and then wiping the entire army again, and I had no units for turn 4. Spearhead is played in 4 turns, which also is really nice. Each turn you can kind of score a maximum of 6 points. Sometimes you can get a little bit higher than that, depending on which twist card you pull for that individual round. But generally a perfect game is like 24 points is like a perfect game. And I really like that it's a low point scoring game and you score all your points at the end of your player turn. And so it's just, the games move so fast. And you, as soon as your turn begins, you see the 3 cards in your hands that can be either used to get you more victory points, or they can be used to give your units individual power-ups over the course of the turn. There is a twist that you pull at the top of each round that will influence how that round actually goes, either giving you more opportunities to score on primary mission, or give you more things to try to do, often helping the underdog player in their turn. Like it's just a really, really tight game where you have a fairly small number of levers to pull. And so they're really, really apparent. Like you really can understand exactly what you're meant to do or what options you have available to you so that you can just try to eke out the win. When Sean and I play Spearhead and we're going real hard, we get a game done in like 45, 50 minutes easy. Especially if he's playing his Khorne, then the game is for sure over like 45 minutes. When you play against the 2 broken armies in Spearhead over and over and over again, it definitely, your heart starts to sink a little bit. But in real games of Spearhead, where you're playing one of the not Khorne or vampire factions, the game is really, really good. I think what I would like to see Games Workshop do is take the top performing teams and just bring them down a little bit. I would not like to see the bottom teams be pushed up too far, because I mean, that's kind of power creep. And what'll end up happening is if every unit just auto kills any other unit, then the game just becomes a boring trading game where if, you know, some things that are just kind of bad, you have to figure out a way to use them. Like in my Skaven Spearhead, the rats. Rats are bad. So the way you use them is you use them to move block, or you use them to gum up your opponents. I like to take my rats and make a line of them in front of, like, if the opponent has a cavalry unit, which cavalry can be a little oppressive, but if I just bubble wrap them in rats, or if I just throw my rats at it and then let the rats just get destroyed and then I reinforce them and then do it all over again, if I can stop my opponent from like getting the utility out of their units by just throwing my little nothing unit into them, that it feels really, really good. And I would prefer that to just making rats somehow really good. so that they could deal with cavalry. I like the balance and the dance of trying to figure out all of the best ways to use my spearhead, as opposed to just, oh, all of my units are powerful, so they're just gonna march up and wreck my opponent's army. There should be like one thing like that in every spearhead, but in general, the best games aren't the ones where both players end up basically destroyed. The best games usually don't involve that much killing, and it's just running around the board. If Games Workshop's listening, I would say definitely Blades of Khorne. You gotta stop it. They're so unbelievably too good. I think maybe leave all the units alone and just get rid of all of their abilities. If they got rid of all of their abilities, because they have some remarkably good abilities. After a Khorne guy punches, the Khorne unit now has a 5-up ward save, which is a 5-up feel no pain. That's crazy good. That's all of a sudden they're tanking 33% of any damage inflicted on them. That's too good. They have a squad that's not Khorne Berserkers, but is Khorne Berserkers. 10 guys, 2 wounds apiece, 3-up save, very easy 5-up feel no pain. You can't be doing that. I have been proxying all of the newest and upcoming Spearhead teams, and I've been playing them at least one game into the Blades of Khorne. And I played with the new Khorne Doggos. I think they're called just the Hounds of Khorne or the Teeth of Khorne. My whole army went into the Khorne Berserkers. Punch, 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 punch. I think I killed 2 Berserkers. And then on the knockback, just wiped squad after squad. Just tone them down just a little bit. Actually, don't tone them down a little bit. Wipe out all of their abilities, and then I think we'll be A-okay. I also played the new Cities of Sigmar Spearhead. This one seems fine. It is a very honest shooting army, and there's not a lot of shooting in Spearhead. And so getting to shoot is like an interesting kind of way to turn the game on its head. It's a tricky one to play. The units do seem to synergize really, really well with each other, but they don't have access to particularly good special abilities. I really like the ogre with the guy in the bucket. Like, it's got a mast, like a ship's mast, and there's a guy in the bucket on top who can snipe. And then the unit that he snipes, the rest of your army gets a little better at fighting. So it does seem like an interesting spearhead, but it's not for me. I do want a shooting spearhead, and I played another one, and that is new Caradron Overlords. The old Caradron Overlord spearhead seemed to be the worst one in the game. New Caradron Overlords seems really good. I played it, and it is very much a shooting-focused army, but there's really only 2 units that are all about shooting. That is the Big Boat and the 3 Balloon Boys, the 3 Balloon Boy squad. And what's really nice is you kind of don't have to rely on their shooting, because the Balloon Boys have a lot of really good movement. And movement wins games of Spearhead. And they also have Reinforced, just in case they die one time over the course of the game. They can move really, really well. I think if they are shot at, they can do another free move, or if they fight, they can do another free move. Like, they have a lot of movement shenanigans, and that makes them a really, really good unit. The boat can also shoot, but it's kind of a risky shot, because it's like 2 shots, hitting on 3s or 4s, wounding on 3s or 4s. Chances are you're gonna miss the shot every single time, which is fine because it's a big boat. And so you just float around the board, or the way I used it, you just throw it into the enemy army and try to move block, because it's got a 2-up save and a bunch of wounds and is really hard for the opponent to chew through it. So it actually, I use it the same way I would use a big 10-man squad of rats. But it just gums up my opponent and hopefully keeps some of their army busy so that the rest of my army can be running around doing stuff. And I love running around and doing stuff. It's a shooting faction, but it's a shooting faction with a lot of options, because if you're just relying on shooting, your shooting is gonna get turned off when you get charged. But if you can really move around the board, then you can really start doing some stuff. And speaking of doing some stuff, I played new Boner Boys, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, the Mortesian Elite. This is a 9 model spearhead of big, tough models. I've played it, I think like 8 times now. It just seems like a really strong, solid spearhead. You get to do discipline rolls at the start of every phase of the game. And so you can get a little bit of extra movement, or a little bit, you can add 1 to your charge roll, you can have a 5-up ward, or you can have a little bit better punching. And these discipline rolls are really fun. I try to make a discipline roll every single phase, even if it won't change the game even slightly. Like if I have to move 3 inches and my guys automatically move 5, I'll still make the discipline roll for the +2 movement, even though they won't take advantage of it, because if I roll badly on the discipline roll, then I've used it up. And so then my discipline roll later in the game, when I try to make my punching better, will automatically go off, right? Because that's how statistics work. I really, really like the new Boner Boys Spearhead. It seems like a really fun one. The smaller spearheads are a little risky because you have fewer models. So if you start to drop models really early, feels like things can go really badly for you. But I think the models have enough girth and enough abilities where I think that they can still be pretty strong. I've really been enjoying them. It reminds me a little bit of my Sylvaneth. The Sylvaneth is also a 9-model spearhead, but they have the best movement shenanigans in the game. And so when everything goes according to plan, I play an absolute perfect game with them. Sometimes things go wrong, like Tree Lord just dies really early on. Although Sand and Bone, the new Spearhead box, has kind of fixed this a little bit, because there used to be a secondary card that let you reinforce or bring back a unit, but it was pretty situational and some spearheads couldn't even take advantage of it at all. In the new Sand and Bone, there's a card that's much more open, and so you can bring back any unit you want that wasn't already reinforced with 4 wounds remaining, which is really, really good, because that means like Tree Lord can come back, or Carnosaur can come back, or, I mean, Yndrasta doesn't ever die in Spearhead, but Yndrasta could come back with 4 wounds remaining. I have been absolutely loving Spearhead. The way I've been able to play all of these new Spearheads, a couple of them have been like leaked on Reddit, but usually they just show up in the Warhammer app, and you don't have to pay to get these features, because it's just in, when you use the app, you can click on each of the different factions. And if you want to like build an army or a force for Age of Sigmar proper, that content is locked. But if you just want to look at the reference material, all of the spearheads are available for free. So you can just click on them and have all of the rules on the app. And that's all you need. You don't need much to play Spearhead. It's really good. Like I can just click through the app, find the spearhead I want, pull it up, and then be playing it like minutes later. I give the rules just one quick once over, and then I am good to go. And speaking of playing some new spearheads are coming in the very near future. We got Spearhead Charnel Watch, which is for they're not the Soul Blop Bleep Blops, they are the ghouls. Probably says somewhere. Flesh Eater Court. The Flesh Eater Court Spearhead is pretty good, and so I might need to try these guys out, because if they're as good as the regular Flesh Eater Court Spearhead, then these guys will be pretty spicy. I also like a hero with wings. Number 1, it's a ridiculously cool model, but number 2, good heroes are a game changer in Spearhead. If a team's hero is not very good, it definitely tones down your power output in the game quite a bit. Also, the Flesh Eater Courts are just really cool in general. I like that they're little ghouly boys. But speaking of ghouly boys, there's another spearhead, the Cursed Shackle Horde, which is the Night Haunt. Every time I've played classic Night Haunt, it's been really fun. They're a wacky spearhead. They ignore your opponent's rend characteristic, because they're ghosts. They just float around. They ignore the terrain, they ignore enemy models, because they have the fly keyword. Like they don't interact with the game, and so you do feel like ghosts just floating around and spooking your opponent. And the new one looks very interesting. Hopefully it's a little bit more of a high damage spearhead, because the original Night Haunt doesn't really do any damage whatsoever, but it makes up for it in the spookies. But if there's some spookies with some damage output, that could be really, really interesting. What's also really fun about Spearhead is the new Spearheads are coming out at a pretty good clip, and so there's always something new. Like, for 40k, I have a lot of 40k factions, but I've really only played my Space Marines and my Tyrannid a bunch. And then I've like played Orcs like twice, and I've played my... what else did I played my Necrons a couple of times. But with Spearhead, every day I'll play like 4 different factions. And you just get 4 different experiences. The game feels so fresh and different all of the time because it is easy to jump around, especially if you proxy. And it's fine, just proxy with whatever miniatures. Sometimes it's really fun to be like, this Space Marine Intercessor, that's an ogre. That's an ogre for right now, so keep that in mind. But speaking of keeping things in mind, our Eons of Battle campaign, The Catacombs of the Blessed Dead, has some exciting announcements. We got some new wall sections finished, some stretch goals. We got some classic normal walls, which are really nice to put like in between the walls that we already have for the campaign, which are absolutely bedazzled in bones and skulls. And so these are a really nice palette cleanser to put in between some of those. They're all freestanding. We got some good old-fashioned doors and some walls with little holes in them. I think a really fun rule for the walls with the holes in them is regular old humans that don't have the heavy keyword in Trench Crusade can like move through the hole, but probably anything with the heavy keyword or any Ashan stuff, they can't go through the hole. I guess everything can go up and above, but then you have to make a risky roll. And if I'm not good at making the risky rolls. I tend to fail those and then have to end my turn. Bunch of new wall sections coming for the Catacombs of the Blessed Dead, but that's not the only fun thing that's going on with our campaign. We are working on putting together the masters for our miniatures, the Eons of Battle miniatures, the Catacomb Sappers, and the Grace of Flesh. The master models are the perfect model that is going to be used to make the molds so that they can be cast out of resin. And so the master miniatures are essentially just a perfect miniature that is going to be duplicated and made into all of the subsequent copies of it, cast in beautiful resin. It's really, really exciting to make like real miniatures. Like I buy so many resin miniatures, and now I'm building my own miniatures. And I have seen the process from start to finish. And at the beginning of the year, it was just a thought and some scribbles on my Mac that can barely turn on anymore. And now we're gonna get resin miniatures, like perfected versions of these things. It's pretty exciting. I really want to get the minis back. For the Catacombs of the Blessed Dead, the pre-campaign is live now. You can follow the link in the description below to go check it out and see what we're offering. There is a free piece of terrain available if you follow, and there's still more to come. We're working on so many things. But speaking of so many things, I finished a Warhammer novel, Lilith Hesperex, the Queen of Knives. All of these characters and all of their suffixes and names are bouncing around in my head. I almost said Mother of Nightmares, which is an Age of Sigmar character, Liqerise, who I also really like. But the Lilith book, made by not Max Brooks, Mike Brooks, not to be confused with the Zombie Survival Guide, which is also a really good book, but Mike Brooks, I heard really good things about his Alfarius novel, and I saw that he wrote the new Lilith book for the Dark Eldar, and so I was really excited to give it a read, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I looked it up a little bit online, and people were like, it's okay. You don't get a lot of lore about the Dark Eldar. You kind of just get Lilith, and that was a really good sign to me, because my favorite Warhammer 40k novels are the ones that just follow one character, and you get their thoughts and their experiences in the weird and wacky world of Warhammer 40k. And it was a delight. I really, really liked it. It gave a really interesting insight into the world of the Eldar. I mean, you kind of get to meet the Exodites and the Harlequins and the Azyanari and the regular Drukhari, and then you get the new thing, the Yanari. In the book, it kind of breaks down how all of these different factions feel about one another and feel about their horrible situation of all of their souls are destined to go to Slaanesh. And you get a lot of Lilith and her life as the Queen of Knives. And you get some good Vect. Vect is currently the head honcho of the Dark Eldar. You get some good Kamara and how that weird city works. It was really, really a nice book, and it's gotten me kind of excited to get back into my Dark Eldar. Oh, the Dark Eldar. We're still waiting. We're not even waiting for our codex. We're waiting for Games Workshop to mention we're gonna get a codex one day. The Dark Eldar. But the book is really, really cool. I really liked it. It gives a lot of really good characterization to Lilith. And what's kind of nice is typically in 40k novels, the world of 40k is so grim and dark that generally the characters in the book aren't grim dark. They're kind of just regular people. And so like the juxtaposition of them versus the world makes the books really interesting. Lilith is pretty dark. She's a bad person, but in the context of Dark Eldar, she's fine. She's not a super villain, definitely not a good person, but it is really interesting to see her in her element, which is in combat, but then also having to do politics. There's a great moment in the book where she's trying to deal with these other people, and she's like, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing to die, so I don't have to deal with any of this. Like, she's only happy and content when she's fighting, and anytime she has to deal with any sort of business, like, it just ruins her day. I really liked the book. I hope that we get some more books from Lilith Hesperex. I think she's actually a really interesting character and a really good way into Dark Eldar society and the goings-on, because there's a lot of interesting stuff happening with Eldar since the Gathering Storm and the birth of Yvraine. Like, there's actually some interesting things happening with the lore, and I don't know if Games Workshop will ever push it to where we find out, like, do they successfully defeat Slaanesh? Do they figure out a way to at least save their souls from, like, damnation? It'll be interesting to see how Games Workshop tiptoes around progression without ever actually giving us a conclusion. Because if we ever get a conclusion, then it's kind of over. If you guys have any Warhammer 40,000 novel book recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. I have been very pleasantly surprised recently reading some 40k novels. I feel like I was reading Horus Heresy and that was great, and then I picked some at random and they weren't that great, and so then I kind of fell off reading the books. But if I could read some good stuff, I mean, I feel like that would get me right back in. But you know what always gets me right back in? EonsOfBattle.com. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find our merch, like the EOB dice. We've also got wet pallets, water slide decals, which we have some new decals in stock. We also got basing toppers and bits, and it's also the best way to support us doing what we do with a membership. Each month, members get a credit that they can use on our new monthly train packs or any previous pack we have ever made. This August, we're dipping back into the world of fantasy with some deadly terrain. The Chaotic Cemetery Pack, a series of walls and sculptures depicting the haunting stillness of death and the brutal cruelness of chaos, made in the shapes and sizes needed for games of Age of Sigmar Spearhead, Sand and Bone. These perilous walls are surrounded by a set of chaotic statues in the Icon of Change, the Likeness of War, the Bust of Decay, and the Effigy of Excess, all radiating with otherworldly corrupting powers. The Chaotic Cemetery Pack was made by us and is available on our website as STL file or physically printed for you. I have been enjoying the spit out of Age of Sigmar Spearhead, and there's only like 4 I haven't played. If I don't count the new ones that won't be out for like a week or 2, maybe I just go ahead and I play those 4 that I'm missing, and then I can say I have played them all. Thanks for watching.